Welcome back to today's reading and congratulations because you are still reading. Because this chapter that we're about to read is a summary of everything we've been reading for the past month. So, chapter 19, all together now, what we've learned about the psychology of your own money. So, let's dive into what the author has for us. Congratulations, you're still reading. It's time to tie together a few things we've learned. This chapter is a bit of a summary, a few short and actionable lessons that can help you make better financial decisions. Have you noticed something? Every book we read is more like when you read it, you have to take actionable steps towards it. It's not just to read, it's about taking the actionable steps towards achieving that goal that you intend to achieve. We don't just read, we read because there is something we want to read from that book. And when you learn it, you put it into actions. So reading on. First, let me tell you a story about a dentist appointment gone horribly awry. It teaches us something viral about the dangers of giving advice about what to do with your own money. Now listen, Clarence Hodges went to the dentist in 1931. His mouth was radiating pain. His dentist put him under crude anesthesia to ease the pain. When Clarence awoke hours later, he had 16 fewer teeth and his tonsils removed. And then everything went wrong. Clarence died a week later from his surgery's complications. His wife sued the dentist, but not because the surgery went awry. Every surgery risks death in 1931. Clarence, she said, never consented to the procedures in the first place and wouldn't if he were asked. This case wove through court, but went nowhere. If I have to summarize my views on investing, it is this. Every investor should pick a strategy that has the highest odds of successfully meeting their goals. And I think for most investors, dollar cost averaging into a low-cost index fund will provide the highest odds of long-term success. That doesn't mean index investing will always work. It doesn't mean it is for everyone, and it doesn't mean active stocks picking is doomed to fail. In general, this industry has become too entrenched on one side or the other, particularly those vehemently against active investing. Beating the market should be hard. The odds of success should be low. If they were it, everyone would do it. And if everyone did it, there would be no opportunity. So no one should be surprised that the majority of those trying to beat the market fail to do so. I know people who think it is insane to try to beat the market, but encourage their kids to reach for the stars and try to become professional athletes. To each their own. Life is about playing the odds, and we all think about odds a little differently. Over the years, I came around to the view that we will have a high chance of meeting all of our family's financial goals if we consistently invest money into a low-cost index funds for decades on end, leaving the money alone to compound. A lot of this view comes from lifestyle of frugal spending. If you can meet all your goals without having to take the added risks that comes from trying to outperform the market, then what's the point of even trying? I can afford to not be the greatest investor in the world, but I can't afford to be a bad one. When I think of it that way, the choice to buy the index and hold on is a no-brainer for us. I know not everyone will agree with that logic, especially my friends whose job is to beat the market. I respect what they do, but this is what works for us. We invest money from every paycheck into this index funds, a combination of US and international stocks. There is no set goal. It's just whatever is left over after we spend. We max our retirement accounts in the same funds and contribute to our kids' 5 to 9 college savings plans. And that's about it. Effectively, all of our net worth is a house, a checking account, and some Vanguard index funds. Consent between doctors and patients wasn't in black and white. In 1931, one court summed up the idea that doctors require freedom to make the best medical decisions. Without such, we could not enjoy the advancement of science. For most of history, the ethos of medicine was that the doctor's job was to fix the patient, and what the patient thought about the doctor's treatment wasn't relevant. Dr. J wrote about the philosophy in his book, The Silent World Between Doctor and Patient. Doctors felt that in order to accomplish that objective, they were obligated to attend to their patients' physical and emotional needs, and to do so on their own authority, without consulting with their patients about the decisions that needed to be made. The idea that patients may also be entitled to sharing the burdens of decisions with their doctors was never part of ethos of medicine. This wasn't ego or malice. It was a belief in 2 points. Every patient wants to be cured. 2, there is a universal and right way to cure them. Not requiring patient consent in treatment plan makes sense if you believe in those 2 points, but that's not how medicine works. In the last 50 years, medical schools subtly shifted teaching away from treating disease and towards treating patients. That means laying out the options of treatment plans and then letting the patient decide the best path forward. This trend was partly driven by patient protection laws, partly by Cart's influential book, which argued that patients have widely different views about what is worth it in medicine, so their beliefs have to be taken into consideration. Cart wrote, "It is dangerous nonsense to assert that in the practice of the art and science physicians can rely on their benevolent intentions, their abilities to judge what is the right thing to do. It is not that easy. Medicine is a complex profession and the interaction between physicians and patients are also complex." That last line is important. Medicine is a complex profession and the interactions between physicians and patients are also complex. You know what profession is the same? Financial advice. I can't tell you what to do with your money because I don't know you. I don't know what you want. I don't know why you want it. I don't know why you want it. So I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. I don't want to treat you like a dentist treated clients. So I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. But doctors and dentists aren't users, obviously. They have knowledge, they know the odds, they know what tends to work, even if patients come to different conclusions about what kind of treatment is right for them. Financial advisors are the same. They are universal truths in money, even if people come to different conclusions about how they want to apply those truths to their own finances. With that caveat in place, let's look at a few short recommendations that can help you make better decisions with your money. 1. Go out of your way to find humility when things are going right and forgiveness and compassion when they go wrong. Because it is never as good or bad as it looks. The world is big and complex. Luck and risks are both real and hard to identify. Do so when judging both yourself and others. Respect the power of luck and risks, and you will have a better chance of focusing on things you can actually control. You will also have a better chance of finding the right role models. Less ego, more wealth. Saving money is the gap between your ego and your income, and wealth is what you don't see. So wealth is created by suppressing what you could buy today in order to have more stuff or more opinion in the future. No matter how much you earn, you will never build wealth unless you can put a lid on how much fun you can have with your money right now, today. Manage your money in a way that helps you sleep at night. That's different from saying you should aim to earn the highest returns or save a specific percentage of your income. Some people won't sleep well unless they are earning the highest returns. Others will only get a good rest if they are conservatively invested. To each their own. But the foundation of "does this help me sleep at night" is the best universal guidepost for all financial decisions. If you want to do better as an investor, the single most powerful thing you can do is increase your time horizon. Time is the most powerful force in investing. It makes little things grow big and big mistakes fade away. It can't neutralize luck and risks, but it pushes results closer towards what people deserve. Become okay with a lot of things going wrong. This is another point. Become okay with a lot of things going wrong. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune, because a small minority of things account for the majority of outcomes. No matter what you are doing with your money, you should be comfortable with a lot of stuff not working. That's just how the world is. So you should always measure how you've done by looking at your full portfolio rather than individual investments. It is fine to have a large chunk of poor investments and a few astounding ones. That's usually the best case scenario. Judging how you've done by focusing on individual investment makes winners look more brilliant than they were, and losers appear more regrettable than they should. Another point is, use money to gain control over time. I think this was chapter 7 or 8. Because not having control of your time is such a powerful and universal drag on happiness. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want to, pays the highest dividends that exist in finance. Be nicer and less flashy. This is another point. No one is impressed with your possessions as much as you are. You might think you want a fancy car or a nice watch, but what you probably want is respect and admiration. And you're likely to gain those things through kindness and humility than horsepower and groom. Save. Just save. You don't need a specific reason to save. It is great to save for a car or a down payment or a medical emergency, but saving for things that are impossible to predict or divine is one of the best reasons to save. Everyone's life is a continuous chain of surprises. Savings that aren't earmarked for anything in particular is a hedge against life's inevitable ability to surprise the hell out of you at the worst possible moment. Divine the cost of success and be ready to pay it. This is another point. Because nothing worthwhile is free. And remember, the most financial costs don't have visible tax. Uncertainty, doubt, and regret are common costs in the finance world. They are often worth paying, but you have to view them as fees. A price worth paying to get something nice in exchange, rather than fines, a penalty you should avoid. Then the next point is worship room for error. If I don't know, this room for error is just it's stuck with me. Like a gap between what could happen in the future and what you need to happen in the future in order to do well is what gives you endurance, and endurance is what makes compounding magic over time. Room for error often looks like a conservative edge, but if it keeps you in the game, it can pay for itself many times over. Next point, avoid the extreme ends of financial decisions. Everyone's goals and desires will change over time, and the more extreme your past decisions were, the more you regret them as you evolve. Another point, you should like risks because it pays off over time, but you should be paranoid of ruinous risks because it prevents you from taking future risks that will pay off over time. Next point, define the game you are playing and make sure your actions are not being influenced by people playing a different game. Then the next point says respect the mess. Smart, informed, and reasonable people can disagree in finance because people have vastly different goals and desires. There is no single right answer, just the answer that works for you. Now, let me tell you what works for me. That's the author. So that's going into chapter 20, Confessions, the Psychology of My Own Money. Let's hear from him. It said, Sandy, a billionaire investor who founded the consulting group First Manhattan, is said to ask one question when interviewing candidates for his investment team: what do you own and why? Not what stocks do you think are cheap or what economy is about to have recession. Just show me what you do with your own money. I love this question because it highlights what can often be a mile-wide gap between what makes sense, which is what people suggest to do, and what feels right to them, which is what they actually do. Half of all US mutual funds portfolio managers do not invest a cent of their own money in their funds, according to Morningstar. This might seem atrocious, and surely the statistics uncover some hypocrisy. But this kind of stuff is more common than you think. Ken Murray, a professor of medicine at USC, wrote an essay in 2011 titled How Doctors Die. That showed the degree to which doctors chose different end-of-life treatments for themselves than they recommend for their patients. Doctors don't die like the rest of us, he wrote. What's unusual about them is not how much treatment they get compared to most Americans, but how little. For all the time they spend fending off the death of others, they tend to be fairly serene when faced with death themselves. They know exactly what is going to happen, they know the choices, and they generally have access to any sort of medical care they could want, but they go gently. A doctor may throw the kitchen sink at a patient's cancer, but choose palliative care for herself. The difference between what someone suggests you do and what they do for themselves isn't always a bad thing. It just underscores that when dealing with complicated and emotional issues that affect you and your family, there is no one right answer. There is no universal truth. There is only what works for you and your family. Checking the boxes you want to check in a way that leaves you comfortable and sleeping well at night. There are basic principles that must be adhered to. This is true in finance and in medicine, but important financial decisions are not made in spreadsheets or in textbooks. You remember now, there was one topic we read like that. They are made on dinner tables. Yes! They are made at the dinner table. They often aren't made with the intention of maximizing returns, but minimizing the chance of disappointing a spouse or child. Those kind of things are difficult to summarize in charts or formulas, and they vary widely from person to person. What works for one person may not work for another. You have to find what works for you. Here is what works for me. How my family thinks about savings. Charlie Munger once said, I did not intend to get rich. I just wanted to get independent. We can leave aside rich, but independence has always been my personal financial goal. Chasing the highest returns or leveraging my assets to live the most luxurious life has little interest to me. Both look like games people do to impress their friends, and both have hidden risks. I mostly just want to wake up every day knowing my family and I can do whatever we want to do on our own terms. Every financial decision we make revolves around that goal. My parents lived their adult life in 2 stages: dirt poor and moderately well off. My father became a doctor when he was 40 and already had 3 kids. Earning a doctor's salary did not offset the frugal mentality that is forced when supporting 3 hungry kids while in medical school. And my parents spent a good years living well below their means with a high saving rate. This gave them a degree of independence. My father was an emergency room doctor, one of the highest stress professions I can imagine, and one that requires a painful juggling of circadian rhythm between night and day shifts. After 2 decades, he decided he had had enough, so he stopped. Just quit, moved on to the next phase of his life. That stuck with me. Being able to wake up one morning and change what you are doing on your own terms. Whenever you are ready. On your own terms, whenever you are ready, seems like the grandmother of all financial goals. Independence to me doesn't mean you will stop working. It means you only do the work you like with people you like at the time you want for as long as you want. And achieving some level of independence does not rely on any adulter's income. It is mostly a matter of keeping your expectations in check and living below your means. Independence at any income level is driven by your savings rate. And past a certain level of income, your savings rate is driven by your ability to keep your lifestyle expectations from running away. My wife and I met in college and moved in with each other years before we got married. After school, we both had entry-level jobs with entry-level pay, and settled into a moderate lifestyle. All lifestyles exist on a spectrum, and what is decent to one person can feel like royalty or poverty to another. But as our incomes, we got what we consider a decent apartment, a decent car, a decent clothes, decent food, comfortable but nothing close to fancy. Despite more than a decade of rising incomes, myself in finance, my wife in healthcare, we have more or less stayed at that lifestyle ever since. That's pushed our savings rate continuously higher. Virtually every dollar of raise has accrued to savings, our independence fund. We now live considerably below our means, which tells you little about our income and more about our decision to maintain a lifestyle we established in our 20s. If there is a part of our household financial plan I am proud of, it is that we got to the goalpost of lifestyle desires to stop moving at a young age. Our savings rate is fairly high, but we rarely feel like we are repressively frugal because our aspirations for more stuff haven't moved much. It's not that our aspirations are non-existent. We like nice stuff and live comfortably. We just got to the goalpost to stop moving. This would not work for everyone. It only works for us because we both agree to it equally. Neither of us are compromising for the other. Most of what we get pleasure from, going for walks, readings, podcasts, cost a little, so we rarely feel like we are missing out. On the rare occasions when I question our savings rates, I think of the independence my parents earned from years of saving, and I quickly come back. On the rare occasions when I question our savings rate, I think of the independence my parents earned from years of high savings, and I quickly come back. Independence is our top goal. A secondary benefit of maintaining a lifestyle below what you can afford is avoiding the psychological treadmill of keeping up with the Joneses. Comfortably living below what you can afford, without much desire for more, removes a tremendous amount of social pressure that many people in the modern first world subject themselves to. Nassim Taleb explained, true success is exiting some rat race to modulate one's activities for peace of mind. I like that. True success is exiting some rat race to modulate one's activities for peace of mind. We are so far committed to the independence camp that we've done things that make sense on paper, that makes little sense on paper. We are so far committed to the independence camp that we've done things that makes little sense on paper. We own our house without a mortgage, which is the worst financial decision we've ever made, but the best money decision we've ever made. Mortgage interest rates were absurdly low when we bought our house. Any rational advisor would recommend taking advantage of cheap money and investing extra savings in higher returns assets like stocks. But our goal isn't to be godly rational, just psychologically reasonable. The independent feeling I get from owning our house outright far exceeds the non-financial gain I get from leveraging our assets with a cheap mortgage. Eliminating the monthly payment feels better than maximizing the long-term value of our assets. It makes me feel independent. I don't try to defend this decision to those pointing out its flaws, or those who would never do the same. On paper, it is defenseless, but it works for us. We like it, that's what matters. Good decisions aren't always rational. At some point, you have to choose between being happy or being right. We also keep a higher percentage of our assets in cash than most financial advisors would recommend. Something around 20% of our assets around outside the value of our house. This is also close to indefensible on paper, but I am not recommending it to others. It's just what works for us. We do it because cash is the oxygen of independence, and more importantly, we never want to be forced to sell the stocks we own. We want the probability of facing a huge expense and needing to liquidate stocks to cover it to be as close to zero as possible. Perhaps we just have a lower risk tolerance than others. But everything I've learned about personal finance tells me that everyone, without exception, will eventually face a huge expense they did not expect, and they don't plan for this expense. The few people who know the details about finances ask, what are you saving for? A house? A boat? A new car? No, none of those. I am saving for a world where curveballs are more common than we expect. Not being forced to sell stocks to cover an expense also means we are increasing the odds of letting the stocks we own compound for the longest period of time. Charlie Munger put it well, the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. So moving on to the next one, which says how the family thinks about investing. I started my career as a stock picker. At the time, we only owned individual stocks, mostly large companies like Berkshire Hathaway and Procter and Gamble, mixed with smaller stocks I considered deep value investments. Go back to my 20s, and at any given point, I held something like 25 individual stocks. I don't know how I did as a stock picker. Did I beat the market? I'm not sure. Like most who try, I didn't keep a good score. Either way, I have shifted my views, and now every stock we own is a low-cost index fund. I don't have anything against actively picking stocks, either on your own or through giving your money to an active fund manager. I think some people can outperform the market's averages. It's just very hard and harder than most people think. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that for us. I like it simple. One of my deeply held investing beliefs is that there is little correlation between investment effort and investment results. The reason is because the world is driven by sales. A few variables account for the majority of returns. No matter how hard you try at investing, you won't do well if you miss the two or three things that move the needle in your strategy. The reverse is true. Simple investment strategies can work great as long as they capture the few things that are important to that strategy's success. My investing strategy doesn't rely on picking the right sector or timing the next recession. It relies on the high savings rate, patience, and optimism that the global economy will create value over the next several decades. I spend virtually all of my investing effort thinking about those three things, especially the first two, which I can control. I have changed my investing strategy in the past, so of course there is a chance I will change it in the future. No matter how we save or invest, I am sure we will always have the goal of independence and will always do whatever maximizes for sleeping well at night. We think it is the ultimate goal, the mastery of the psychology of money. But to each is their own. No one is crazy. And that is the end of the psychology of money. There is a postscript here, but then you have to get this book if you would like to read it. So thank you for reading with me, for reading this book with me. Thank you for being on this journey with me right from the start. If you have been with us for the very beginning, or if you're just joining us, thank you also for joining us. So on to the next book. Leave suggestions, comments of the next book you would like us to read, and then